The question could be raised at this point, why me? I guess it's a cry from the heart quite often for the wrong reason. But why me in this situation? I certainly had always had the concept that this was a good step, that there needed to be an organisation, there needed to be a body that was recognised, that was aside from the Physiotherapy Society, from the professional body, that was an academic body. It didn't need to have ivy-covered halls, but it needed to be a body that recognised ongoing education and excellence in education. And that's why, it came up whilst I was still involved at the Physiotherapy Society executive level, and I'll come to that a little later on maybe. So out of that kernel, as it were, that existed and came into being, I was moving out of the executive at that stage, or probably had moved out of the executive at that stage. I wasn't specifically looking for another job to do. I had a practice to try and run. But I guess I had the skills to be a chairperson for that, and I had the enthusiasm for it. And so the task fell to me. As I say, I cannot for the life of me recall whether it was an election at the time of that meeting in Alpers Avenue or whether it was something that happened subsequently. I rather think that was the case, that the representatives of the special interest groups had their first board meeting, and I may have been elected at that point. And then I was the chairperson. We had a similar structure to the society's executive structure, in that a chairperson had a 2-year tenure and could only do 2 terms and then had to stand down. And so I did my 4 years in that position, in which was really the setting up, the administrative setting up and starting to get it going. Computers were starting to become more widespread. The paper logbooks, which I filled out as well when I remembered to, could be bothered and submitted to Wellington on rare occasions, was such a pain in the proverbial. And we started thinking, there's got to be an IT way of doing this, where you can push some buttons somewhere and it all suddenly happens and appears on somebody's spreadsheet in Wellington. And I presume that system is in existence now, rather than the old paper logbooks where you record which course you did and how many points you got for it and how many hours you spent on it. But it was a start, and that was what we had to work with. And to try to get these systems in place that worked, were not too onerous under the circumstances, was really what we were about, to try and get that going, while the academic board got on with their side of it. So, yeah, 4 years in that position, and then off. I don't think I spent any more time on that as a representative of any of the special interest groups I was involved in at the time. I may have done a year or so for the acupuncture group. That's all in those mists a bit. The number of committees and Lord knows what I was on or had been through in those days started to blur a bit at one stage, to the stage that my wife said, this is ludicrous. You're never home, you're always off to Wellington, or you're on some meeting or some telephone conference calls, of course, were the big thing in those days, and very efficient. Saved Wellington trips a lot, but still took up an awful lot of time. So that's where I got involved, or was elected to be involved in that part of the college, for which, and I'm humbly thankful for it. They issued me with a life membership, which I do cherish. Not that I've ever been to any further meetings, but follow the goings and comings of the college and its continued involvement. So pleased to see that. That was good.